I will give a quick introduction to the CITYLAB project, what we did, and trying to put the pieces together now towards the end of the project. You all know the background, why we're here, about the problems with congestion, difficulties with many people in the same place, even growing cities, and lots of environmental challenges as well in terms of emissions, noise, accidents. But we also have a very ambitious EC goal of contributing to almost CO2-free city logistics in major urban centers by year 2030. And this is sort of common for all the four projects. The approach of CITYLAB was to do three things. So first of all, we wanted to develop new knowledge and understanding about freight and service trips in urban areas and their impacts. We wanted to test and implement new solutions aiming at reducing the negative impacts while also ensuring profitability of business, and then lay the ground for transfer of solutions that are promising. And there have been many initiatives during decades within this domain, and many things have succeeded, many things have failed. But I think in a way, many of us think that the sort of innovation uptake is quite slow. It's a lot of talking, but sometimes a lack of doing. And I think one reason for the complexity is the many stakeholders involved. You have the shippers, receivers, transport operators, real estate owners, but also local administrations. And this complexity makes it very difficult to make changes. And this has been acknowledged for a time, and there's been different ways to bring stakeholders together in freight forums, freight quality partnerships, etc. In CITYLAB, we have sort of tried to incorporate the living lab approach into the city logistics domain, building on previous stakeholder collaboration practices, but working more towards realizing solutions, so to set common goals and work together across the public and private sector, co-creation of solution, and focus on end user involvement. And for this purpose, we have brought together in 7 European urban areas acting as the living labs, in total 25 partners. And Mike mentioned the issue of being a coordinator. Sometimes you can regret that you have 25 partners. Sometimes it's a bit too much. But we have been able to bring together people from the industry with their experiences and solutions, local and regional authorities, so having kind of ownership to the city challenges, as well as research partners who contribute with data collection, evaluation, and kind of acting as a neutral partner in these collaborations. So we had the local collaborations in these cities, and then there's our European dimension looking across. And in our living labs, we have done various things. We have mapped the urban freight status, looked at the political context, what kind of strategies and plans are in place, and how do collaboration take place in each of them. So there have been sort of different studies, but we have also had in each location focus on one particular solution that we wanted to support the implementation of. And this we call implementations. And they have been focused on 4 domains in which we think there's a particular need to act. The first one is about highly fragmented last mile deliveries, partly caused by growing e-commerce with instant deliveries and many different flows, and the need to combine them effectively. In London, Newt Cargo, a company specializing in deliveries with clean vehicles, have collaborated with TNT about increasing the scope of their operations to look at growth potential for use of electric vehicles. In Amsterdam, PostNL have established a set of micro hubs from which they have distributed with cargo bikes instead of diesel vans that they used in the initial phase. And then in Brussels, Procter & Gamble set up a new online sales channel for reaching small independent store for replenishment of them, and trying to use spare capacity of service-driven companies already in the network to deliver to these stores. The second topic we have been dealing with is about large freight attractors. Partly in the public sectors, you have city administrations, hospitals, universities, large freight attractors that generate a lot of demand. And in Southampton, in collaboration with the local consolidation center operated by Meachers, we have looked at the different volumes, what can be consolidated and not, and trying to increase the awareness of the total amount of goods delivered to these public authorities. In Oslo, we have looked at multi-tenant shopping centers, which constitute around 30% of retail trade in Norway. And they are big buildings, long distances in-house, and we looked at a new service function for dealing with those deliveries for a new shopping center being constructed in Oslo. The third domain we have been looking into is about not looking only on direct, the deliveries, but combining them with waste collection and returns. And Poste Italiana have tried in Rome to combine mail deliveries with collection of clean waste. And the fourth domain, which is the last but definitely not least, is about logistics sprawl. That warehouses, terminals, logistics facilities move further away from the city centers, increasing last mile distances and also making it more difficult to introduce clean vehicles. And in Paris, they have set up logistics hotels, bringing logistics facilities closer to the center to counterbalance this trend. And I will not go into more details of each of them, but they're all presented by posters. So you will have the chance during the poster session to go and have a look at the description of the scopes, what was found, etc., and discuss with the partners responsible for following up on this. But we have, in a way, looked at different aspects in connection to them. We have looked at the context in which they take place, studied the processes, the collaboration processes in developing measures, and identified impacts. Here's a screenshot from the dashboard at the CITYLAB project website, showing or comparing two alternative scenarios. So it's been a lot of collection of both in terms of data for the impacts, but also about experiences. And with our focus on the living labs and the collaborations, we also try to map, so what are the experiences from the collaborations? I will not go through all of them, but for instance, the industry highlight that the possibility to affect policies and present their views to local authorities has been valuable to them. For cities, they have appreciated the support from research partners for data collection, evaluation, but also to help them raise awareness of the urban freight issues. And for researchers, it's been beneficial to work both with cities and industries for access to data, but also to have access to the latest information about policies and innovations that are arising. But we have not only sort of looked in these living labs, we also had a broader scope looking at trends and developments that affect urban logistics. They're all published on our website, and I think also printed here, some brochures. So we've done sort of different desk research studies, which are combined with the information about the living lab experiences and what we learned from the different implementations. And now in the final phase of the project, we're trying to put together the bigger picture based on the experiences. And this is kind of draft, it's a quite complicated figure, trying to show, okay, so for moving towards CO2-free city logistics, which is the overall aim, what's these lessons from CITYLAB that we can use and learn from? And in the green part of the figure here, it focuses on the public sector and about better integration of city logistics in urban policies. We believe that from the inner part of the figure, that it's a really urgent need. Many cities have reached far, but there are also, for a wider scope, we need many more cities to be active in this field. And there's a need for goals and strategies at city level. It's not enough to have, or it's nice to have someone in the city administration working on these issues, but you need goals and strategies to anchor the topic and to have it more prioritized at an overall city level. We also see that there's a challenge with, because when you want to change something, you want to know what is the status. But in the case of urban freight, it's very often difficult access to data and information. So it is also an urgent need to get better procedures for data collection. And then it's about collaboration. Most cities have some kind of collaboration with the private sector. But these can be extended, and I think we from CITYLAB have learned a lot about the living lab approach, which is also communicated through a brochure available here today, which is one way of sort of making things happen if you have motivated stakeholders, both from the private and the public sector. Then also for the public sector, as I need to speed up, it's about having sustainable urban logistics plans. It's one way of really placing emphasis on this issue and making sure that logistics is well catered for in land use and planning policies is an important prerequisite for promoting good solutions. We have also seen for the different solutions we have been studying that the issue of space and facilities is often crucial. If you want to use clean vehicles, they have shorter ranges, and sometimes you need to reload to them closer to the final receiver. And therefore, I think we need some kind of strategies also from the public sector side on how they can support facilities that promote use of clean vehicles. In addition to the third issue here about supporting incentives and regulations, which is particularly important for promoting clean vehicles. And then when it comes to solutions for ensuring the future sustainability of city logistics, we have to target different levels. So it's about increasing load factors, reducing vehicle movements, but it's also about looking at the demand for transport. Existing trajectories suggest that there will be an increasing amount of freight flows during the next years, which is difficult to manage combined with our need to cut the emissions. So therefore, any measure aimed at reducing the demand for transport, which can be through changed procurement practices, purchasing behavior, is most welcome. But we also have to manage the logistics as efficient as possible for the demand that is there, which is about facilities like logistics hotels and others. I think also there's a need for new forms of collaboration within the private sector. Collaboration between carriers that so far not collaborated. This is a sort of an everlasting pain to achieve that. People who have worked with urban consolidation centers would know all about that. But this is also in line with the physical internet idea that you need to sort of use the capacity and assets better in the future. And finally, it's also about reducing negative impacts in terms of changing to cleaner fuels. And there have been, of course, fewer appropriate vehicles available so far, but new vehicles are coming, in particular for vans, but we will also see developments for larger vehicles during the next 5 years. Try to set out a few recommendations for different levels based on the experiences. I really appreciate the pushing for sustainable urban mobility plans in general and sustainable urban logistics plans in particular. But I think there should be an even stronger requirements for it because the proper planning is the basis for changes in the future. And sometimes driven by sort of short-term political wishes, there's a focus in some city administrations on low-hanging fruits and trying to get some quick fixes. And that's nice, but you need something more. You need something more for the future. I think at the sort of European and national level, there's also a potential for contributing to some indicators and data collection procedures, not only in the research projects, but to really anchor them to be used by cities. And a stick and carrot, coherent policy for promoting zero-emission vehicles. How much time?
A couple more minutes.
Okay, thank you. At city level, this supportive environment that I mentioned about having goals and strategies, collaboration platforms, and can be incorporated in SOPs, I think is really important. The plans for space. Space can be used for different purposes during the time of the day. There are many possibilities for seeing how the public sector can also facilitate logistics. But then also the role as procurer, which is now dealt with by several projects, which is really good. I think it's important for the demand also in the future. And concerning demand, also shippers and receivers have to be made more aware of how they affect transport operations. I think the logistics operators have to be prepared for more collaboration, and that will be developing during the next years, but also in active collaboration with authorities. So in the end, it's It's about reducing the demand. It's about collaboration and asset sharing. 2 years ago, there couldn't be any presentation in this domain without mentioning drone. Right now, it's about digitalization, so I put it here, but there are many possibilities for now matching supply and demand that didn't exist a few years ago. Space and logistics facilities is important, and space will remain important, because even if you get cleaner vehicles, the space in cities are limited. But I also call for a kind of demanding and coherent public sector action from the EU level to local neighborhoods, because I think the public sector has a key role in promoting sustainable operations from the industry in the future. Thank you.